All right, I'm here with Stuart Chaney, founder and CEO at Revo. That's a company he started in 2021. It's a B2B SaaS company, around about 20 people, looks like, based on LinkedIn. You guys are just below 3 million in ARR. And you started posting on LinkedIn, I think, in the last year. So I'm very glad to have you. Thank you for joining.
Cheers, man. Good to be here. Been listening for a long time, so glad to be on. So yeah, been in B2B SaaS like 15, 16 years. And have always been in these niche app stores where you don't need any public visibility. In fact, public visibility is a bad thing. If you start building in public or doing anything like that, these app stores are all based off of who is number one or two in the algorithms. If you give away your secret sauce, you're going to be overran within a few weeks, a few months. That is the whole business. So
Yeah.
scaled up a business in the Shopify app ecosystem about 10 years ago. Through doing that, we have, over 2 million app installs in Shopify. Again, had absolutely no public visibility whatsoever. And then we made a move at Revo.
Was it outbound or ads, or how did you grow initially?
It was 100% App Store. And
just organic, like literally people just finding you on.
Literally,
Wow,
I would say it's
okay.
like 3% like sales and marketing spend we ever had. The margins were crazy. And then I could kind of see the writing on the wall with that after spending, 6 years there in that game. I could see that the supply and demand in that app store ecosystem had, leveled out, we'll call it.
Mm-hmm.
So where I wanted to go next, I was kind of burnt out with the business as well. So what I did was I said, okay, let's make a move up market. And it's going to be a complete change in the business that I've been running in startups for the last, 12, 15, 14 years previous to that. So then about 18 months ago, maybe even 2 years ago, honestly, someone forwarded me a LinkedIn post from Adam Robinson. And it was him sharing his P&L online on LinkedIn. This is like
for retention, because our B2B was not a thing back then.
Yeah. Back when he was really in that upmarket Shopify Plus. And I saw this and I said, what the hell is going on here? Like, I've never seen anybody in our ecosystem, at least, be that public. There was like Nathan Barry at ConvertKit and then, Buffer, but nobody in the Shopify ecosystem. And then when I saw those numbers, I was like, okay, like, this is where we need to go. And then what the hell is Adam doing? Because he's just blown up. Like, he went from the Shopify app ecosystem is small. And when something blows up, it goes quick. And he just blew up through that. And just really
But that was then before he made that switch to his new ICP, targeting kind of CRO, CEO, SaaS people. That was when he was still posting specifically to try to attract D2C brand owners, Shopify people.
Exactly, yeah. So I heard on like a podcast he was on that he was considering building a PLG app in the Shopify ecosystem. So classic rule of email outreach, always lead with value first rather than, hey, can I pick your brain for 30 minutes, right? So I basically hit him up, cold email, and said, hey, here's what I've done in the Shopify space on the PLG side. I've heard this is what you're moving into. I'm actually trying to move up market where you are crushing it. Can we like jump on, maybe exchange some ideas? He said, yep. And then over the course of, a few months after that, we met up a bit and he basically, we traded, different plans from different sides, from SMB where I was, PLG, to up market where he was. And again, he basically gave me the playbook that he was running, how he was doing it. He'd hooked me up with Alec over there as well, who was awesome. But yeah, would literally not be doing this if it wasn't for Adam showing me the light. So very grateful.
So when did you do your first kind of LinkedIn post?
It would have been like 18 months ago.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so since, do you remember, like, did you grow any meaningful amount of followers? Because I know you guys are in a quite small niche, so there's not a ton of people that you can reach.
Trying to remember back to them, but basically we started at the start where it was like, hey, we're at 1 million ARR. So came out of the gate with, hey, we're going to expose the numbers and hoping that that's going to at least get some eyeballs. Because the biggest problem that we had, and really didn't unlock until like 6 months ago, you can see in the numbers as well, is that we had a solid product. We had a really good product. We had a great team, but just no one knew who the hell we were. We had zero brand awareness. It was all in that App Store ecosystem because we started out in the App Store and then we made a move up market, but we got there and no one had ever heard of us, even though we had probably 5,000 merchants on the platform,
So talk to me then about the rationale, because I know one of the things that Adam talks about is that back when he did what in a sense you're doing now, which is when he was running retention and his ICP was Shopify store owners, and he was trying to create content around ecom, it just didn't really work for him that well. And only once he made that switch with our B2B to focus on SaaS and CEOs and CROs and go-to-market people, that's when he really took off, and that's when a lot of people who know him now started getting to know him. And in a sense, you're kind of doing that, what he initially did, which is you're selling to ecom stores, Shopify stores in the D2C space. And then the main piece of content that you're posting is actually giving updates on your growth. So almost all of your posts are about, hey, we grew from this to that, and here's what worked, what didn't work, what we tried, kind of do an analysis of like what worked and what didn't. What's the rationale here, given that maybe this is actually more relevant for SaaS founders rather than an ecom store owner?
Yeah. He told me this would happen, and Alec told me this would happen. I was like, all right, well, we're at zero, so it can't get any worse. So what it was great for and what it is still fantastic for is if you were at zero brand awareness. In our ecosystem, there's probably, let's call it 3 or 4 different segments that we have to have a lot of brand awareness in. Number one is actually other vendors who we do a lot of other partnerships, let's say even say co-selling with. Ecom merchants, ecom brands are really, it's like based on your tech stack. It's really focused on tech stack rather than like just regular SaaS. So we have to play nice. We have to know everybody. We have to be in there. If someone makes a recommendation, it has to be, oh, we recommend using Revo instead of anybody else because they've seen us on LinkedIn, they've seen us, they know of us. The others would be agencies. So e-commerce agencies, again, us being a recommendation and them just having the brand awareness that they've seen us before is huge. So those are the 2 big ones that are on LinkedIn. And that has worked, again, like we're in a smaller niche, we're at a much smaller scale than a lot of people, but it really has done a lot of good stuff for the business doing that. The other one though is brands, the actual e-commerce brands, and they're all on X. And that is where I have been posting more, let's say in the last 3, 4, 5 months, has been over there. And again, kind of hit that in LinkedIn where I did notice, same as others say, it was a lot of just SaaS engagement, which is great. But at the end of the day, would love to have gotten that out to more and actually get it in front of the people who are the brands who we are directly selling to.
Sure. And so I'm looking at your X right now. On X, are you posting the same content, so updates on revenue growth, or is it a completely different strategy trying to share ecom insights?
More ecom stuff there. We're a retention platform, so we will share more stuff that will get in front of brands who, let's say, might find it valuable. I try as little as possible to like not do any selling. I'll even go as far as not even mention the like name of the company when I can, just because I don't want this to be seen as an advertisement. Literally just trying to deliver value and let me be known, and then in case let the brand be known as well, let Revo be known, to people just literally clicking through the profile and seeing who is this guy.
So it sounds like X is then for building relationships with potential customers, which are the e-com brands, and then LinkedIn is really how you're using it right now is to build relationships with partners and in the ecosystem. So agencies, other vendors who might be reselling you guys or co-marketing it. Um, was that the strategy from the beginning 18 months ago when you started posting and you said, this is what will happen, and this is why I'm doing it and I'm working towards that? Or did you just start and then this kind of crystallized later on?
Yeah, and thankfully I was able to chat with Alec as well,
Yeah.
who had kind of told me, "Hey, here's what's going to happen if you do this," and that it did work out like that. And again, we were just at zero, and I was at the stage where I said, if we don't do this, this might not work, you know. So we built the backbone off of, hey, I don't care about the numbers or anything like that. We don't have any investors. We're bootstrapped. I'll tell you if things are going good, bad, or otherwise.
Mm.
And we just built the backbone of being, hey, let's build in public. There's not many who are doing it in the ecosystem, or maybe it's like a more diluted version. But that was really what we said we wanted to build everything off. And I was willing just to share everything good or bad. As you probably know as well from, working with a lot of people, the bad stuff performs way better than the good
Oh my
stuff.
God. And it's a real, let's say I'm pulling up your LinkedIn here so the people who are watching on YouTube can see a little bit. So here's an example of a post from a day ago. Revo closed 2024 at 2.8 million ARR, 117% year over year growth. Here's a breakdown of the year. We finally hit product market fit. And then you kind of break down the numbers, the good, the bad, a little summary, what you're planning to do next year, a little proof of the revenue growth here. You do some kind of interacting, I guess, here with with a team, with a company. You had a new CRO join, so there's a little bit more kind of PR-ish
Hmm.
stuff. And then here is another post like that, where you broke down, the difference between growing slowly and then growing a lot faster in the last 90 days. Um,
Yeah, I would say on this, for
go
the
for it.
first 12 months, I really dove deep into a lot of what I was seeing in the ecosystem, things that maybe you couldn't say if you had investors and you don't want to look bad or look like the company is doing bad.
Hmm.
And then about, you know, 3, 4 months ago, switched more into being, okay, let's make X the primary platform, and let's keep LinkedIn with the building public updates. And instead of, what was the Gary V thing? Jab, jab, right hook.
Jab, jab,
I
jab,
was
right
I
hook.
was
Yep.
jabbing for a year, right? And so I said, all right, let's throw some hooks in here. So last few months just been doing that as well.
Yeah.
I'm trying to make X, yeah, the primary. But if I was in B2B SaaS and selling to other SaaS, like, I would be 1000% into LinkedIn,
Hmm.
rather than anywhere else, just wherever the audience is, right?
So just one comment on the sharing the bad stuff. I wanted to say I think it's a real mode, because even when people understand that that's the playbook, it's still just really hard to do, because most people either just cannot deal with the discomfort of sharing the bad and the ugly, and a lot of companies who are VC funded just literally cannot do it because investors will come knocking on their door and being like, you can't be sharing this stuff.
Yeah.
So the people who are willing to share the bad and the ugly, they'll have a real advantage. Now, talk to me then about how you are approaching X now, given that you have some experience with kind of content and what works, what doesn't work, being transparent, all of that, and now you're tackling a new platform with a new persona. So instead of reaching partners and the ecosystem people, you're trying to reach e-com brands. How are you approaching figuring out this platform? Did you hire someone? Are you just allocating, I don't know, 2 hours a week to write something? Is it completely off the cuff? Like, what's your approach?
Yeah, haven't hired anyone. It's mostly off the cuff. My way of thinking about it, so if I can zoom back to LinkedIn and how I would do it there, now how it's on X. For LinkedIn, at one stage it was like 2 posts a week, long form posts, and I'd probably spend like an hour or 90 minutes even sometimes on like each post,
Yeah.
trying to like craft it together. The hook has to like draw it in, use the numbers, make them click the button, all that kind of stuff, right? So
Yeah.
to do that, that took me probably 6 months to like figure out. Oh, just like I figured out these algorithms in the App Store. Not that I figured out anything on LinkedIn. I am literally by no means an expert or whatever, but you do certain things and you will get more impressions and more engagement. The hook being one of those. But to go back to X and how I'm handling that at the moment, still figuring out the platform. I think these platforms takes 6 months to like find out really what works, what doesn't. But the biggest thing is just being there and engaging and posting. Even if it's once a week, it's better than 0 times a week. And starting from that base and seeing what works and what doesn't. But again, the biggest thing is just awareness that you exist. I think especially where we're going in SaaS at the moment, where the commoditization is accelerating pretty fast. And if you're not working on building a brand, building a personal brand audience, going from that angle, you're going to be screwed in a few years. Like this is the, let's call it moat that exists. It's not features. It's not anything else. I know some people as well who like, spend the majority of their time focused on what they're posting on LinkedIn, X. And again, it's probably a good business move if you can do it,
How much time would you say you're currently spending on LinkedIn and X combined per week? Between posting and engaging and all the other stuff that comes with it, not just writing the post.
Probably 8 hours.
8 hours a week?
Something like that, yeah.
So like a solid 1 to 2 hours a day, let's say.
Yeah, maybe slightly less, but yeah, it's getting more.
Yeah. And would you I mean that's solid, right? I think that's a good reminder for people, which is like, I mean, that's a good chunk of your time. Would are you thinking about expanding that? Do you feel like you found your sweet spot with that? Like, are you thinking of cutting back actually now that you're growing?
Still figuring out that platform and how things work. I am a tadpole on both platforms, but like you said, it's like DTC SaaS is the niche that I'm in. Let's call it ecom SaaS.
Yeah.
It's a really small circle, but it's a tight circle. And once something hits, it hits quick. And let's say if there's a SaaS platform or something like that. I think about 6 months ago, we started tapping into that. And now we're kind of working our way into the, let's call it the nightclub of people knowing who you are, right? You're either in or you're out. And it's really just finding out, okay, how does this platform work? What do we have to do? LinkedIn took me 6 months to actually get going and seeing what resonates, what doesn't. So I am still very much in learning mode over on X and trying to work it out. But I made that decision, like 3 months ago that, hey, LinkedIn, we could kind of see what Adam ran into, had the exact same thing had happened on a much smaller scale to me, but the same thing had happened. Like if you go through the engagement over there, it's going to be a lot of SaaS vendors, stuff like that. Because same way again, a lot of the build and public stuff, you are looking for someone who is, let's say, like 3 steps ahead of you. Like if someone's building in public at $20 million ARR, I want to know what the hell they're doing because I want to jump up to that, right? And same as well, if we're just, hitting 3 million now, a lot of other people are wondering, oh, well, hey, I'm in the exact same space. What's he doing that I'm not doing? So it's just different levels of it that I see happening.
Sure. Now I want to go to kind of what you learned about the algorithm on LinkedIn, but you mentioned this like 6 month time period multiple times now. Do you feel like that's that's kind of the sweet spot that it takes to like just get rolling and to start to understand what even works, what doesn't work?
I think so. And again, I kind of had a advantage of talking to some people
I mean,
who,
you talk to Adam, you talk
yeah,
to Alec Paul, who is the guy who's helping Adam with LinkedIn. So
yeah,
I mean, you got right to the source.
yeah, and I talked to some other people, like Justin Welch. I chatted to
Sure. Yeah.
some other people. I can't even remember off the top of my head right now, but it just takes a while to like find out what actually hits and what doesn't, and you probably post some cringy shit, and you're like, oh, that's not even me. You know what I mean? It's like takes a while to find out, but definitely looking at what works and then molding it for your own voice. So, hey, I can see that this post or this style of post has a lot of impressions. Can I at least even like get some inspiration from the hook and work off of that? Know that numbers are a requirement for anything you want people to click through on.
Sure.
But yeah, I would say like 6 months is what it took.
What
Probably long in hindsight.
What are some other things that you learned that you know now about how the algorithm works, or what resonates, or what's working on the platform that, maybe you see some people now who start posting and you kind of see through the matrix and you see why that post only got 10 likes or 20 likes because they're not doing these things. You mentioned obviously sharing the bad and the ugly, including numbers in the hook. Do any other things come to mind that you learned now that you didn't understand when you got started?
Yeah, I mean, it's all the classics, right? It's like, do not put a link into the body of the post. You're just telling the algorithm just to ignore this. Like,
Mm-hmm.
it's literally not going to work. You're going against exactly what the platform wants you to do, which is stay on the platform, not click away.
I actually disagree with this, but
Do you?
uh, oh yeah,
I'm here to learn, so I would actually love to understand.
no, I think I think it's one of those things that people keep repeating because once you kind of hear it, it makes total sense. But I'm just not seeing it. Like I've had like just recently 2 weeks ago, I did a post where I promoted a live event I was doing with Chris Walker, and obviously it's with Chris Walker, but I always put the link to sign up to that Zoom event directly in the copy, not in the comments, not first posted and then edit it later and then add the link like straight away. And I mean that post got 25,000 impressions, and it's one of my better ones
Damn.
recently, right? So it's maybe it's a little bit harder if you put in the link, but it's definitely not where LinkedIn's like, oh, there's a link, it will get zero distribution. I think I think there's a correlation because generally speaking, when people put a link, they're not writing the post with a standalone piece of content on the platform in mind,
Mm,
right? Like almost always when there is a link, you wrote the post to kind of promote people to promote the link. So
right.
you just end up writing from a different point of view and a different mindset that makes it a bad post. But if you write it the same way how you would write a good piece of content and then there's a link, I think it can totally work. But
Right.
I'm just
Yeah,
not seeing the clear,
maybe that's
you
more
know.
of an X thing, but yeah, I always thought that on LinkedIn that if you put that in, you're just like nuking your reach on it. But
Well, I think maybe, but even if that's true, like what I definitely noticed is, let's say I do a post promoting a live event, right? And so I need people to actually go to that link and go to Zoom and sign up to the event. It's not enough if they just read the post. Let's say I do a post that's a standalone piece of content that's doing a really good job promoting the live event, and because I'm not posting a link in it, it gets 40,000 impressions. But now I put the link in the comments and there's a massive drop off. And even though I get
interesting.
40,000 impressions, I only get 50 people to sign up. But if I put the link right there into the main copy at the end of the post, maybe I'll only get 25,000 impressions, but I actually get 500 people to sign up to the event
Right.
because I don't have that massive drop off, right? So it's
Stuart,
also like, what are you optimizing for?
I'm a fan of sticking to the numbers and what works. So you've definitely changed my. I'm open to now dropping links into these posts. So I follow the numbers.
But anything else that you learned in terms of what's working for you?
Yeah, posting at the right time. So usually I'll do it around 7:30 a.m. to 8 a.m. my time. I'm
Mm-hmm.
in the West Coast, so maybe that
Mm-hmm.
works well in terms of crossing. Um, Editing a post, I've noticed that when you edit it, and again, I don't know, I've only done this a few times, but I'll, let's say, forget to add in a at Revo instead of just, trying to link out to the page.
Uh-huh.
And I go back in and edit it, and I'm just like, I thought this would do a lot better, but it
Mm.
didn't. From editing it within the first like 5 minutes. Those are the
Yeah.
big ones that I've noticed. Anyway, I think that's like
Do you sometimes delete a post when it doesn't reach a certain threshold and try again?
so I've never deleted it. When I put it up, I'm like, it is what it is. Doesn't really matter if it's at the same time, and I think it's all right. But I've deleted it because, again, just like editing it, I said, something looks wrong there.
Mm.
And I noticed when I re-upload it within a few minutes that, again, it didn't do as well as I expected. I'm like, oh, this hook is a banger. This thing is gonna is gonna do well. And
Sure.
then delete it, then put it up again. I'm like, this definitely like failed, you know.
Yeah. Do you do anything? Is it when you post, let's talk LinkedIn, and you're trying to attract partners, awareness in the ecosystem? Is it just waiting for an inbound, or do you do any sort of like, oh, I saw someone engage with my post, let me go reach out to that person proactively and go outbound? Do you do any of that sort?
We use our B2B, and we'll see if interesting people drop in, and then we will connect, see what we can do from there.
Yeah.
One of the best things that actually worked on LinkedIn was taking that organic content that was more, let's say, of a case study. So one of the biggest brands in our industry is a company called Hexclad.
Mm-hmm.
They're a cookware brand, strongly associated with Gordon Ramsay,
Yep.
and they're a nine-figure brand. Everyone knows them. They have huge brand awareness in our ecosystem. Um, they're one of our first big customers. We were super lucky to get. And what we did was I posted from my account, hey, we helped Hexclad, you know, generate $450,000 in the first 90 days. Here's how we did it. Was kind of the hook, something like that.
Yeah.
Um, and then we had like a very like 5-second looped video of just those two logos. So you can see our logo with the other logo of this huge company that has a lot of social capital, right?
Sure.
And we were kind of playing off that. And again, it was a case study that they had okayed everything, so felt good about it. And then what we did was we took that organic post and promoted it as the main piece of content that was going to be distributed across LinkedIn ads. I think it was
Mm.
just when um, the like thought leadership, I
Yep.
always hate that name, but like the promoted posts from Organic came out. Um, I feel like we were early on that, like just
Mm-hmm.
had came out, and that did really well. I know there was 2 million impressions on that, and again, probably a lot of junk in there, but what we did on LinkedIn ads as well was we went to store leads, which is like a CRM for, hey, this store is using this app and
Mm-hmm.
this other store is using this other app. Took all of those, dropped it into Clay, got all the contact data, cleaned it all up. We could then get a list of, here's our competitors who are using, or sorry, here's a list of brands who are using our competitors, and then we would
Mm.
segment them, and then we
Mm-hmm.
would put them into LinkedIn as audiences, and then we would run campaigns with this, hey, one of the biggest brands is using Revo. Here's why you should use them instead, type of angle
Nice.
from it. And
Yep.
that worked really well. And again, I cannot tell you the clicks that came through and attributed to it or anything like that. Um, but I just know that that was in front of the eyeballs of the right people. It's been referenced a few times on, let's say, demo calls, meeting people, whatever. But that worked really well for us, was promoting that social, or sorry, organic post that was a case study.
Yep. Yep. And are you on those demos, or how did that, let's say, information get surfaced? Because definitely one pattern that I see is that when founders or CEO outsource this type of stuff, like posting and LinkedIn, that sort of stuff, they are often removed to the extent where initially you're going to get anecdotal proof, right? You're going to get some person liking your post or commenting on it, or you're going to get someone mentioning on a demo like, hey, I saw that video that your CEO posted. But unless you're in your DMs, you're checking your LinkedIn, you're on that demo call, you might not realize that this anecdotal stuff is happening. So were you on those demo calls, or how did you figure out that it's working even though I don't have the clear data to back up that thing, that claim?
So yeah, two different pieces of that. I still lead some of the calls for like the biggest brands that come through. We just hired an enterprise AE actually starting on Monday, so I'm finally jumping out the founder sales. But second part of that is it's really hard to track anything that's actually working. I don't rely on clicks, anything like that. I'm really just thinking, if we do this, it's gonna work based upon, hey, how fast has the business grown? Because we're not really doing anything else. We don't run any outbound. We have all of our App Store stuff that's been really reduced. Word of mouth has driven, I would say, 75% of our growth, which has been like 117% in the last 12 months. I
Yeah.
would put 75% of that, let's say, back to word of mouth. And again, who knows if this would have happened or not without LinkedIn delivering those 2 million impressions from that organic case study. But I just try and see, okay, if we do this, it's going to work. Like if we just post and increase visibility, trust that it's going to work and people are going to know who you are. That was our biggest problem on day one, is no one knew who the hell we were. We would go to an event and, people would be like, I've never heard of you, like ever. And that was
Yeah.
very, very humbling.
Yeah.
And that was about the time where we were like, okay, let's really focus on LinkedIn, double down on it. And we're going to do this. We're going to follow what others have told us have worked, what we can see working. And then how fast we grow is going to be the measurement.
So I mean, I know you don't have the exact number, but if you had to, so you closed the year at 2.8 million ARR. That was 170% growth. So you more than doubled in 2024. What's your sense on what impact LinkedIn had on it? Like if you had not done LinkedIn in 2024, what do you think you would have ended up? Like still 110%, or
I'm sure we would have went to outbound sales and tried doing all the old stuff that maybe no longer has the same punch. I think what, it's funny, I just posted in that end of year post where I said, hey, we just bet 2.8, 117% growth. I actually linked back in the post to the 2023 update where I was just like, I don't think this is working. It's like, I think we grew maybe 67%, which is, it sounds good if you're a 10-year-old company or a 5-year-old company, but you're in year 2. That's not good. Like that's not a company that you're going to be bullish on if that's on their second year. So yeah, really all goes back to that one. Is keeping the thing at how fast you grown.
But okay, but you said word of mouth, but word of mouth is also just you have a good product, and so customers talk to other people in the space about, hey, this is a good product. So that would have happened either way, whether you would have been on LinkedIn or not. But obviously, selfishly, I'm just trying to understand what's your sense on what role LinkedIn played on that growth. Um,
I would say it was massive. Um,
okay.
Maybe I'm biased because I was the one writing it, but again, like I said, we are small fry in the grand
Yeah.
scheme of LinkedIn. But if you can work off of a theme, ours was build in public. I think build in public works great over 1 million. I
Mm-hmm.
think it doesn't work as great under that. But if we didn't start that, I don't think we would have got the juice that what we got. I
Mm-hmm.
think that started out, and again, it goes back to the three different segments that we're selling to: other SaaS vendors, agencies, and brands.
Yeah.
Brands being the hardest, agencies next, other vendors. Other vendors is the best place to start if you're coming in from zero like we were.
Mm-hmm.
Especially if you know you're striving to have a good product. You can get in with others, you can co-market, you can look for other people who are around your same size to start out with, and then like build your way up from there. Like you're not going to go in a day one and do something with Klaviyo or one of these other big
Yeah.
companies in our space, but you can start with people who are around you. LinkedIn
Yeah.
is the best place to do that, like by
Right.
far. There's not even a close second. I couldn't even think of one off the top of my head that would be as high performing as starting on LinkedIn. In fact, the last 6 months, there's a there's a really good wave of like younger bootstrapped startups who from day one have said we are going to pitch our flag into LinkedIn and build our moat from here, and it is working for
Yes.
them
Yeah. Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
Like you look.
So I'm curious to hear your take on that, because in the very beginning you were talking about kind of the secret sauce and that you can't share it because then everyone copies it. I think that is one of the open question marks for me as I see this space, and as I see, for example, Adam Robinson talk about their current struggles with churn and 37 competitors popping up all around. Like, on the one hand, obviously, Adam was able to grow so quickly because he has this massive personal brand and he is so transparent. That's the reason why people pay so much attention. But it's also the reason why there's so many copycats and why so many people are replicating every single thing that they try to do in terms of features, integration, etc., in real time. And I recently had Chris Walker on my live event, and actually one of the most interesting things he said that made me think was that he stopped sharing the secret sauce. He he stopped sharing how the sausage is being made, for that reason, because he got so big that people just started copying left and right, and so now he's focused a lot more on evangelizing and highlighting the problem, but not talking about how they solve it, because that's reserved for customers. So I'm curious to hear your take on it.
Yeah, it's kind of sad to say, but I think that's the way it's going. I think when you're coming from zero to get to, hey, people who I want to know we exist now. I think from get to that 0 to 1, you need to put it all out there
Mm-hmm.
and actually drop the value, because what's the point of people, wanting to follow along if you're not going to drop the value from the start? I do think there's a certain stage, and if you look through anybody who has done a build in public before, there's a certain stage where they just like chop it. Like you look back, and maybe like ConvertKit they still have their public barometrics dashboard, um, but I
Mm-hmm.
feel like at a certain stage people just drop off in what they share once they cross like a 5 million ARR, sometimes 10 million
Mm-hmm.
ARR number. In fact, there's a dude called Justin Jackson. I believe that's his
Uh-huh.
name. He had a
Uh-huh.
podcast, which was a build in public podcast for his SaaS. I think it's called Transistor. And
Uh-huh.
again, they talked about on the podcast was from day one was here's build in public. We're going to show everything transparently. That was the whole podcast, from what I understand. And then at a certain stage, here's a podcast they dropped called, "Hey, we're going to stop sharing everything because this is no longer beneficial for us to do this as a business." And again,
Right.
I don't know the exact details. I'm coming from a high level there, but historically, all I've ever seen is people dropping off because at a certain stage, the secret sauce has to, that is your moat at the end of the day.
Yeah, it's very interesting. I guess it is you need to kind of figure out that point for yourself, and it doesn't really make sense to put, what do they say, the cart in front of the horse? Is that a
Yeah.
saying?
Yeah.
Because yeah, I mean, on the one hand, Adam being so transparent is part of the reason why they have so many copycats, which is hard. But on the other hand, if he wasn't so transparent and doing this whole founder branding thing, he probably also wouldn't be at 4 million ARR after 10 months. So it's like,
Yeah.
do you want a 4 million ARR SaaS after 10 months and then have some copycats, or would you rather be, not have 4 million ARR but no one knows what you're building? So
Yeah. It's a
it's
balancing
interesting.
act.
Cool. All right, man. Let's wrap it up here. I really appreciate you coming on. I'm excited to see what you're going to do on X. Maybe we can do a repeat episode in 6 months, and you're going to share all your lessons and learnings on how to make X work. Are you reposting on Threads? Is that a thing? Like, do you just
No,
repost the
I
same
haven't gone
thing?
down there. I haven't heard anything about Threads in a while, but yeah, if it's got eyeballs, I'm open to it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's kind of, I feel like the interesting thing about X is I do feel like it's, compared to LinkedIn, it's fragmented, because depending on where people land on the political spectrum, they're a lot more heavy X or they're a lot more heavy Threads. Like, I know people who used to use Twitter and they just don't anymore because they just don't like Elon Musk. And so they're like, I'm just using Threads now. I think there's Blue Sky now. There's wasn't there like a Truth Social or something like that, which is, even further.
Yeah.
So like, I feel like it's a little bit more, well, on LinkedIn, everyone's kind of on LinkedIn who is professional,
The LinkedIn impressions are
B2B.
far greater than
Yeah,
anywhere else that I've seen. That is for
yeah,
sure. Definitely, they
yeah,
still have that dearth of content where it's only what 2% of people are posting. I know that's an
sure.
old stat. Maybe it's updated since then, but yeah,
I
definitely
don't
still the
believe
place
it's
to
much more
start.
than that.
Yeah, I would agree with you.
Plus, I mean, if you 90+% of people who are posting, it's just garbage content. It's just announcements and company blog posts and stuff like that. Like, people putting out real thought leadership stuff, it's still very, very, very rare, relatively speaking.
Yeah,
So
100%,
cool.
man.
All right, Stuart. All the best on growing 117% or more in 2025, and then
Appreciate
maybe you can come back
it.
soon and report on X.
All right, man. Good stuff. Chat to you soon. All right, take it easy.